Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are talking about Despicable Me 2 and 3 and Minions in this video. We're going to wipe them all out at once because I don't have that much to say about any of them. So, number 2, had not seen it before. I knew that the purple Minions came from that movie, but that's all I knew about it. And I thought it was pretty good, pretty solid as a sequel. Didn't think it was as good as the first one. Didn't have as many memorable lines or anything like that, but I felt like it continued the progression of Gru's story with the introduction of Lucy, and we got some, flashbacks filling in some of the lore of the world with El Macho. So I don't think it was as good as the first one, but certainly, if I was ever with a younger sibling or a niece or nephew or whatever, and they wanted to watch either one of those, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Now, Despicable Me 3 seemed like a bit of a misstep for me. Everything with, I think her name's Lucy. Everything with Lucy and the girls I thought was really good. I wish that had been the focus of that movie. I did not care for Drew and the whole secret twin storyline. That feels lazy and overdone and cliche and like unoriginal for this franchise that, for the most part, is kind of a fresh take on supervillain stories and things with the Minions. That is pretty unique to this franchise. So for them to use a tired, worn-out trope like a secret brother, and then it's just it's Steve Carell. His performance in these movies works really well, bouncing off of the Minions. And it worked really well with Lucy, but when there's just two of him, he doesn't have anyone else to work with. I did like the villain pretty well. I liked all the 80s references, the guitar. So I didn't hate it by any means, but I would certainly put that at the bottom of the list. Now we get to Minions, and Minions I did see in theaters when it came out. I don't know why, but I think that Sandra Bullock does a lot of the heavy lifting in this movie, and for the most part, I think it works. I think it mainly works, I would say, between when they first start leaving the cave up to the point where she decides to throw them in the dungeon. I think all that stuff is pretty good. The earlier stuff where it's just the Minions and they're not bouncing off of anybody. That's how Minions work best, is bouncing off of other people. They don't have enough substance to them to carry anything on their own. So that part is a little lacking. And then the whole story after she decides to put them in the dungeon, it doesn't make sense. She's mad or jealous or whatever, but it's like, it's free help. It's free henchmen. You would still find a way to use them. My light is changing colors. Hold on a moment. Alright, got that fixed. But yeah, I felt like it would have been a better experience to just continue their journey working for her. And I don't know, write something interesting about what happened to her or why they, didn't mesh with her, or just have Gru come in at the end and be the better villain like he does. But this whole thing of her turning on them and then becoming this... She becomes a different character. She becomes this obsessive and belligerent character, which does not match up with what we've heard about her as a character being the greatest supervillain in the world. The greatest supervillain would not be so emotional about things like that. So part of it I think is pretty solid. Part of it there's not enough to it, and then part of it I just didn't care for how the story went after a certain point. But I guess it makes sense that the first one is the best, and they kind of decline after that, and the one with the least amount of the main character, Gru, is the one that has the biggest story issues. That's not really that surprising. So, Minions Rise of Gru, hopefully since it's back to focusing on Gru. I haven't seen it yet, but you would think it'd be back to focusing on Gru, and hopefully being a prequel, it will be more about backstory and building up the characters that we know, rather than relying on cheap tricks like Secret Brothers to try and spread the story farther than it should go. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I can't even speak. Cautiously optimistic that I'll probably at least enjoy it, even if I don't think it's great. I don't think any of these are great. I think the first one's pretty good. I think the second one is okay. Third one and Minions are meh. So I assume I'll at least have an enjoyable time while I'm there. But those are my thoughts on the rest of the Despicable Me's and the Minions movies. Let me know any thoughts that you have. But that's everything I've got to say. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.